Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, mercs of all ages, welcome! My name is TopCap Gaming, and this is the start of a new series. Now, with competitive mode being implemented into Team Fortress 2, Valve is doing a lot on their end to make sure that the game's going to run as smoothly as possible for when they implement it into the general public. With that being said, a lot of high-tier, overpowered weapons are going through some major stat changes. But what about the lower tier, never use, never play weapons that have rarely gotten to see the light of day, except for on a few pub servers? This is what that series is going to do. We are going to take a look at some of the worst weapons in Team Fortress 2 and seeing what stats can we give the weapon to make it viable for competitive. And so, the first weapon we're going to start with is the Sharpened Volcano Fragment. A weapon really cool on Source Filmmaker posters, but really terrible in game. With that, let's get started. The Sharpened Volcano Fragment is a melee weapon for the Pyro. Implemented February 3rd of 2011, it originally started off as a promotional item for the pre-order of Rift, and its current stats are: on hit, target is engulfed in flames, with a minus 20% damage penalty. So, what to think of this weapon? I have to admit, the weapon itself is cool in theory, but it just gets completely trumped by the flamethrower. The flamethrower just generally gets the job done faster of what this weapon is designed for. And the only time this weapon is really used is in medieval mode, but of course we're not talking about medieval mode that we're trying to design this weapon for, we're talking about competitive. This weapon is definitely tailored to be a standalone weapon, in which if you don't have any primary or secondary ammo, that this weapon will be pretty strong. But with the Pyro in competitive, the Pyro's weapons all function as a kit, each one tying in to help out the other, and for the Pyro to serve multiple functions. With this, the Sharpened Volcano Fragment just acts as another flamethrower, but you should be just relying on your first flamethrower to begin with, because you should, in theory, never run out of ammo while using this. As long as you're walking up to enemies, lighting them on fire, and killing them, you'll be gaining ammo back every single time, so there's no point to really use the Sharpened Volcano Fragment. So, with that, let's focus a little bit more on the Pyro's kit, because the Pyro's kit for his melee weapons we can summarize for three categories: offensive, mobility, and support. Offensive being the extinguisher, mobility being the power jack, and support being weapons like the Neon Annihilator and the Homewrecker. Although the Neon Annihilator isn't exactly used in competitive that too much, the Homewrecker is still a viable option for 9v9 when you're defending. So, how are we going to categorize this weapon? Which category should we put this under? Because there are some strong weapons in each of these categories. We do, however, have some more information on the Sharpened Volcano Fragment from its wiki page. In the trivia section, it states, according to Treon World's press release for the promotion, the Sharpened Volcano Fragment was originally intended to use the extinguisher stats. Which is interesting if you think about it, because this weapon definitely looks like it's supposed to be dealing a lot of damage to burning targets. And so, with the original intention and design of this weapon, it should definitely fall underneath the offensive category in the Pyro's kit. So, what should be the proposed weapon stats of the Sharpened Volcano Fragment? Well, the changes that I've come up with are: this weapon gains 1 crit swing for each burning kill, and the negatives are a 20% slower attack speed, this weapon deploys 75% slower, and no random critical hits. So, essentially, it's combining some positives of the Frontier Justice and the negatives of the Extinguisher. And my reason why is the following. When we look at the Pyro's offensive kit, the only really viable melee weapon that it has for this kit is the Extinguisher. So it makes sense that if we give the Extinguisher a relatable cousin, that some changes can be implemented for the Extinguisher to better itself while its distant cousin takes on some of those burdens. So with this, as long as the Sharpened Volcano Fragment has these stats, the Extinguisher can have some of its stats changed or removed. such as it can remove the 20% slower attack speed, or this weapon can have a slower deploy time. And going towards the Sharpened Volcano Fragment, it will definitely offer some variety in playstyle, while at the same time giving a lot of support and benefit towards the Pyro's kit. To kind of cross-analyze how the weapons would each work within a standard Pyro offensive kit, being a degreaser, shotgun, and a melee weapon. With the extinguisher is able to go into a full combo right away on any target as long as they manage to get the burn off first. So, say the Pyro is targeting a medic, the Pyro is able to light the medic on fire, air blast them for some control, shoot them with shotgun, and then finish them off with the extinguisher. Whereas the Sharpened Volcano Fragment, you won't be able to do this combo right away, but after getting some kills with the flamethrower or any other fire secondary, you'll be able to go into this combo much easier, because you'll have more raw damage to put out, whereas the extinguisher won't have the amount of damage that it can put out like the Sharpened Volcano Fragment, but you're still able to go into this combo at any given time. And so, with that being said, there are some other ideas that have been tossed around within the community that I'd like to address, because I know there'll be common suggestions within the comment section below, and I kind of want to disprove these as to why these would be viable. And the two main ideas that kind of float around the community are that the Sharpened Volcano Fragment should be able to build an oomph meter for fire damage done, and that when activated, it activates an AoE fire ring that constantly deploys while the oomph meter is draining. And the second point being that it will extend afterburn damage while the Sharpened Volcano Fragment is active. And so the two reasons why these ideas, although being really cool on design, won't be as viable in the competitive scene is that with the AoE fire ring, that's definitely meant to be some form of crowd control. And the Pyro does that very well with its flamethrower, being able to reflect projectiles and keep enemies at bay by lighting them on fire, obviously. There's no reason why it should switch to its melee weapon when the primary weapon is capable of doing so much more than just providing, well, essentially an area of fire. And the second idea being that it extends afterburn damage is not really viable in the competitive scene, because in a typical 9v9 format, the Pyro is always acting as the support, making sure that obviously there's no spies getting close to the medic, the projectiles are being reflected away, and the other point being that its teammates are not being lit on fire. The Pyro is constantly extinguishing teammates, making sure that they don't take as much damage as possible from burn damage. So there's not going to be a point in time in a competitive scene, as long as there's a good Pyro always making sure that his teammates are healthy, that there's going to be a teammate that's going to be burning for a long period of time. And so that even though that the Sharpened Volcano Fragment would be able to do some extra damage to those burning players, it's not going to be for a very long period of time. It's not going to be a situation like you see in most pubs, where a medic is running towards a health pack and dies right as the last second before the medic is able to reach that health pack because of afterburn damage. It's not going to be that situation in the competitive scene. A good Pyro is going to make sure that his teammates are never burning at any given moment, projectiles are always being reflected, and spies are always being kept at bay. And so, even though, like I said before, these are some pretty cool designs, they're not exactly what we're aiming for. Anyway, so that's all I have for the Sharpened Volcano Fragment. I'm looking forward to being able to do more weapons in the future. I'm able to squeeze out a little bit of time in my schedule today to really put out this video and make this recording. So if you like this video and want to see more of it, be sure to give it a thumbs up. If you have any other suggestions as to what we can change for the Sharpened Volcano Fragment to make it viable and competitive, be sure to leave that suggestion in the comments below. And on top of that, if you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Anyway, my name's TopCap Gaming, thank you all so much for listening, and I'm looking forward to making more videos like this in the future. Alright, take care.